Yeah, total different.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Spark Tank Coaching Live Sessions. Welcome to my usual partners in crime. We've got Kylie Denton, Performance Advisory Group. Welcome, Kylie.
Thanks, Arthur. Good to be here. I'm excited for today.
Yes, we've brought out the big guns today, but before I introduce our guest speaker, I've also got Bram LeGroux, the muscles from Brussels.
Hey, everyone.
Good to see you, mate. Look, I've kind of been lagging a bit. I've got to say, like every week, we have the privilege and joy of having Kylie's and Bram's guests to the show. And I thought, well, I've got to repay the favor. I've got to bring in the big guns. So I thought none other than Simi Rayat to join us today as our special guest. Simi, welcome to the stage. Before I invite you to take us away on, I guess, your topic of today, I thought I might just introduce you to our audience. So first and foremost, reading from my script here, Simi is a multi-winning global business psychologist, and over the last 2 decades has worked with over 300 leaders and business owners to 10 times their leadership impact, multiplication factor of 10. That's amazing. So she's recognized as one of Australia's top leadership coaches and a published author. Her book will be released internationally in October, so I'd love to hear more about that towards the presentation, Simi. And so in terms of your clients, you look after Fortune 500 companies, multinational financial and professional service firms, and specialize in scaling enterprises throughout Australia and the UK. You are the founder of thriving psychology consulting and coaching practice called Wellbeing Face Pty Ltd, and the former founder and owner of Minds for the Future. You are a regular contributor to Thought Leader for Forbes, a keynote speaker and facilitator. What a resume. Welcome to the stage. But most importantly, you're the wife to a handsome hubby and 2 gorgeous young boys. Lads. Fantastic,
yes.
Lads. Welcome, Simi. Thank you for your time today and as our special guest. But look, I might just kick off just with the question is, we're all business owners on this call, Kylie, Bram, and myself, and most of our audience are. What's happening out there? What are you seeing? What's going on?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great question, Arthur. And if I may just say, it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. So thank you so much for having me on. I love your question. You know, what is going on with business owners out there? I think a lot is happening, you know, with the economic climate, the way that it is, budgets tightening, wallets tightening, people are feeling the pinch in their business, their customers are feeling the pinch. A lot of business owners that I'm working with are stressed. You know, they're experiencing high levels of stress and are trying to do more with less. There's a real drive on efficiency, and there's a real drive on making an impact in the best way possible, making a high impact on the best way possible.
Yes, I mean, it is a sign of the times, isn't it? You know, when they say less is more, we're actually trying to do more with less. It's an interesting flip, isn't it? It's my initial observation. I might throw it to Kylie and Bram, but anything from you both in terms of what Simi's just highlighted to us, what's going on out there? Are you seeing the same? I mean, I can definitely vouch for our advisors and their challenges, but in your coaching, I guess, groups, what are you guys seeing?
You want to take it away first, Kylie?
Sure. Look, I agree. I think we're absolutely seeing much more pressure on leaders to be more to their people, right? So before it was, we always knew that you had your technical role, but you also had your people leadership role, the people, the culture, that sort of stuff. Whereas what I'm finding now is that people need our people need more from us. They're demanding more from us. We know, and I was reading some research around our millennials and our Gen Zs, they want more from us. They want us to add value to them. They're no longer loyal to leaders like they used to be. They're demanding, I think, I think they're demanding much more from us. I think the qualities are different to what leadership used to be like. It used to be very much command and control, whereas now it's very collaborative, it's very empathetic. We've got to have all of these things that people need from us. So I'm resonating with exactly what you're saying, because people are stressed. And they're going, how do I do everything plus actually everything my people want? I actually had a leader say to me the other day, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to go back to technical. I don't want to lead people anymore. It's too hard. It's too complex. It's too much to do, too much admin, too much people stuff. And I just, so that's what I am. I'm seeing it, Simi. Bram.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm a bit curious about the feeling the pinch thing. I do see that a lot of our clients are not really in that boat. They're really thriving. Having said that, the efficiency side of things, trying to get more done. Definitely, I see a lot of work going in there, and the impact, of course. But a guy like Arthur, who's obviously very much driven to make an impact in the financial services industry, I'm fully also with that notion of impact, and many people I see that embracing that, which is good. One thing that I actually have though as a question. When you say stressed, business owners and business leaders overall, like, where do you guys actually, what sort of value do you bring in the context of what you just described, Simi? I'd be really keen to hear that a little bit and unpack that together with you.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. Look, the work that I do with leaders and business owners is twofold. One is to really help them individually learn how to be the best leader that they can be. It's like what Kylie said, people are looking to their leaders to be role models, to understand them and get the best out of them. Now, you're only going to be able to do that as a leader if, one, you're fully aware of your own leadership style, your personality, what motivates and what drives you. And then secondly, what motivates and drives each of your team members. And the more that we can get better equipped at doing that, a lot of the things that are causing those potential stresses can also be mitigated. Because quite often it's either a lack of communication or a mismatch in communication style. The leaders and business owners, may know what's going on in their business, or they may not have all the answers and feel that they want to delay sharing any messages and communicating with the rest of the team till they know everything. But really, the team just needs to hear a little bit to know that actually, this is what's happening, or this is what potentially could be ahead for us. So communication is just one example. Another example is in terms of, the stress that I'm talking about that leaders are facing. A lot of leaders that I'm working with have got large teams. They've got large teams and they're stressed in terms of making sure that they can keep their teams afloat. They can afford to keep these, very capable, experienced, value-adding employees within their organization or within their department. So showing up as a leader is one thing for your team, but then also being able to think more strategically and think about, well, how do we manage and navigate ourselves in this current climate to really get through it, with strength, with cohesion, and with a very clear strategic plan. So that's where that support around strategic leadership, strategic awareness, but also as a leader, how do I show up and be the best leader that I can be for my team?
Kylie, you're not coming through, or we
sorry.
can't hear you. Yeah,
sorry.
go.
Simi, when I hear you say that, it's kind of like, to me, I think of leadership in pillars, and I think you've kind of put them into the kind of pillars that I look at, and that is leading oneself, leading a team, and then leading into the future, strategic, visionary, all that sort of stuff. So you've kind of pulled them into those 3 pillars there in response to what Bram was saying. Is that how, Arthur, I loved your bio. I love what you do. Both Bram and I have got a background in psych, so that's what drives me, and I love leadership on top of it. But when I hear you say 10x, how do you measure that? And how do you do that? Are you looking at it in pillars? Are you looking at competencies? What are you doing so that's tangible for some of the people that are listening, our audience that are listening, can go, I could take that and I could apply that?
Yeah, amazing. I love that question, Kylie, because it's about results, isn't it? It's about outcomes. What is the difference that investment in very deep leadership development really has? So how we measure it is we work with business owners that are really looking to elevate their impact. What I mean by that is have an even bigger impact in their ecosystem, whether that is the number of clients that they work with, the number of clients that they onboard, how much they've been able to help their clients increase their revenue, or how they've been able to build relationships or quality relationships with others in their ecosystem, and collaboratively they've been able to deliver an initiative together. So we look at all these different ways. We ask our clients, what is of most impact to you? And where do you really want to have that impact? What would that look like in terms of a financial figure and an outcome? If we were to quantify that, what would that look like? So I can give you an example of a recent client that I've been working with, and amazing guy. He's an amazing guy. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. He won't mind me sharing this because we have recorded a documentary together and it'll be coming out shortly. But his way and his style of communicating and sharing what he does with people can turn some people off, because it comes across as being very egocentric. Now, this guy, this very successful business owner, is not at all egocentric. And he went through the program with me to really understand his light side and his dark side of his personality and how that impacts his leadership style. You're smiling, Kylie, because you'll be so aware of this, that we all have the light and the dark side. Now, for him to have that awareness, he was then able to realize that he needs to manage that dark side. And that dark side will really help the light side shine brighter, and people from afar will be able to connect with him a lot quicker. Now, since we've been working together, he's taken on 6 large clients. And the work that he's been able to do with those clients now is extremely impactful. For me, that's so fulfilling, because he's an amazing person, highly experienced, so much value to offer. But now he's been, in a way, he's been mobilized to go and have an even bigger impact. I feel fulfilled because he's helping more and more people. And so he should. He's got so much value to offer.
I kindly decline the light and dark side assistance. Sometimes I think, where would you, out of interest, where would you categorize like motivation? Like sometimes motivation can be born through a egotistical, source, like you want to be the best and you want to stand out because it's going to produce good outcomes. Just out of interest, where would you kind of position that kind of drive? Is it a good thing to have that, or a bad thing to have that? Or is light good and is dark bad, or it's not? Like
no. So very often, so I'll give you an example. Our dark side are essentially our strengths. So our strengths, but when they are overplayed. So too much of anything, when we overplay it, it can actually then work against us.
Yeah.
So let's think of a business owner that loves to have control and really know where the business is at. During times of high pressure and stress, that business owner, the dark side may come out where they may just want to really micromanage everyone.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
I know it. Yeah, I know it.
And that, in a way, then works against the leader, and it works against the business, because it's not in the best interest of the business, and it's not in the best interest of those that report to that leader, because they're going to feel demotivated. They're going to feel that their leader doesn't trust them. They're going to become disengaged. So being aware of your dark side, we all have a dark side, but being aware of the dark side, we can then manage it, and we can put strategies in place that, although that dark side will still pop up, it's not going to have such a negative impact.
Oh, I got a question for you now, because from everything you said so far, I'm suddenly thinking, like, you work with certain tools, and I want to hear, like, if you use any psych tests or any of them, just what are your favorites and why?
Yeah, love that. Look, being a psychologist, all my work is grounded in psychological science and in data. I think for us to be impactful, we need to have data, because we actually all think that we know ourselves really, really well, but we're also biased in our own view of ourselves. So the data and the psychometrics is so important. So thank you for asking the question, Bram. Look, some of my tools that I use, I really love the Hogan suite. Again, we look at the bright side, we look at the dark side of personality, we look at motivators, values, and drivers. We use the EQI, the Emotional Intelligence Questionnaire. Again, all the tools that we use are highly reliable and highly validated and have specific norm groups. And that's a key part of the work and the rigor and the depth that we can bring to our work with our clients, because often you want to get that level of detail of, okay, what is the psychometrics showing us? What are you saying as a leader and a business owner? And then what is your team saying? So the 360 is really, really important to capture all angles of how we come across.
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
Are you seeing a shift? I mean, there's so much onus placed on leaders today, because, I mean, there's the business, but there's also the talent pool. And the expectations and realities of the talent pool, I think, have dramatically changed in such a short period of time. I mean, in the advent of, a post-COVID world, technology, and, I must say, I was pleasantly surprised. We've just been able to put on some new talent to the organization where, the expectation was some flexibility, but they were looking for that role model leader. They were looking for development, the classical types of things. But I must admit, I probably haven't seen that come through as much or as often in the last maybe 4 to 12 months. More recently, yes. Have you started to see a change in the attitudes of talent where, they're not so relying on shortage to get what they want? Like we went through this period of mass shortage where the dynamics and the demand and supply equation, particularly in our industry, has gone through significant change in financial planning, where the talent pools all of a sudden, being able to really have a heavier influence on outcomes versus a meeting in the middle, and so, in the past it may have been, really employer having the weight of control, and I think it just shifted dramatically back to the employee. Is it starting to come back? So we're getting a balance of outcomes, or
it's a really interesting question, because working with my corporate clients, what we're noticing is a lot of people, if you think about it, we've actually only come back to like being in person for 2 years. It's not long. It's not long. So in terms of, in person, and people are are reassessing how they want to work, where they want to work, what they want to do. So what we've started to see a lot more in the corporate world is that people are now starting to think about what else could they do and what changes do they want to make.
Yeah.
And they're thinking more about the environment and the culture that they want to work in.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean flexibility. I mean more than that, in terms of how, as an organization, regardless of the size of your organization, but how do you keep people within the organization? How do you enable them to thrive? How do you help them feel seen, heard, recognized, and valued? And that's the shift that we're really starting to see, is that as leaders, it's about being, it's what you said, Arthur, it's about being available, but it's also showing up as being a role model, getting to know your team and knowing what's going to motivate them and how do they want to feel seen, heard, and valued.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And there's some, I mean, what about the economic and macro factors? I mean, like, hey, we've gone from an environment of low interest rates, I mean, domestically, right? And has that also attributed to employees altering their, I guess, their urgency for, growth, or maybe staying, in a certain, position for a little bit longer because things are a little bit more uncertain? Is that starting to come through a little bit more? No,
I don't think so.
you're not seeing that, Kylie? I mean, what?
I'm not. And I'd love your opinion too, Simi, but no, I'm not. And I think if we look at some of the Gallup surveys, as recent as 2023, so last year, they're saying that there's 49% of our workforce is currently looking for another role, right? So I'm seeing people not necessarily staying in that one position anymore. They're looking, maybe they think the grass is greener.
Is
maybe
it a sideways move, Kylie? Is it always in a promotion? Like, because people like sideways to promotion is two different things. Like, they're looking more out of their role and out of their environment versus looking for the next challenge. It's two different things, right?
Agree. And I think that's where the generational differences come into it. So, we're the first generation where we're managing 4 different generations in our workforce now. So I think what I'm seeing, Arthur, is some are like the younger ones, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they're wanting more. I want more. Give me more learning, development, coaching, mentoring, that sort of stuff. And then there's others that maybe they might actually want to do something different. So I don't think I don't feel that there's probably just that one answer, but Brahm or Simi might.
I think why one of your clients is just facing, the reality is like, do I want to, do this anymore? It's such a complex, ever changing. And like you said, I've never actually had that put to me before. The modern leaders dealing with 4 generations at the same time.
Yeah.
I think, guys, one thing that we really started talking about with Simi, which I think is really the important one, the fact what you raised, Carly, in terms of that Gallup survey, you would wonder, why are they looking? And I think it comes back to what Simi says. I sat down the other day with a guy who used to be really big in the software and even big data selling and software as a service, like selling multi-million-dollar deals. And he just got so burned out and he felt so kind of dismissed in an industry where he basically used the word dog eat dog. Your own peers, your own bosses, your own managers are all scrambling, trying to look after themselves first at your expense, which basically has let him travel the world for a year, not wanting to do anything. And when I sat down with him, I asked him, what is it that you really would like to do next? Here's what he said. And I think this sentiment, is really prevalent out there with everyone, especially those that are looking for another job, potentially outside of the business they're in, is they don't feel the recognition. They don't feel the love, and they're not feeling inspired by the people above them. They say, these are our values, and they act probably in a shadowy type way differently. And I think that huge disconnect is putting a lot of people off.
I'd agree, Bram, absolutely. And I think that's even more so for millennials, Gen Z as well. They're looking for that inspiring, inclusive culture where there's a strong sense of belonging. And regardless of their tenure within the business or their role, if they've got an opportunity to have an impact, to make a difference, and it's recognized, that's what they're motivated by.
Yeah.
I think so, more so than ever, guys. I absolutely am with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I just had the pleasure of meeting a young graduate, and she's joining us, and so that was number one on the agenda, funnily enough. Sorry, Kylie, I cut you off.
No, you're right. There's so much you can pull from this. It's kind of a bit like strings, isn't it? But Bram, you know, what you were saying around that burnout, again, the Gallup survey said 40% of people are currently burnt out and 70% of our employees are stressed, okay? And I was kind of looking at, you know, how they defining the difference there. But the comments that I'm seeing now from leaders where they are stressed or they're overwhelmed or they're feeling burnt out, it's because, again, what I'm seeing is many organizations are cutting budgets, right? They're cutting that coaching or that mentoring or the development programs or the leadership programs. So the leaders are just kind of going, really? I need the support and I'm not getting it. Why am I doing this, right, as well? So that then leads to stress, burnout, overworked hours, or quiet quitting as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bram. No, you were going to raise a point on that one, so you go there.
I just want to kind of throw a little bit of a curveball in this, a bit of a bomb maybe that might explode. I don't think that is what makes people stressed. We all know of these bootstrapped type businesses.
Yeah,
that have very little to do, but they're so creative and they're so cohesive and they're so impact driven. They believe the dream. They got a dream, they clear about it, and they chase it. I don't think limitation in resources is the thing. I think it's the environment that you're in, and is it making you inspired to go and make a difference? Or do you feel that everything is too hard around you?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? It could be both. It could be that.
And, I think there's fatigue in that though as well, Bram. You know, I think there's a level of fatigue in that higher level purpose where once you set the tone on I guess the purpose of an organization or the mission, it just feels like the changing. There's just so much influence coming from all different sources and angles today. I just feel that changes more often. Like when you had a purpose statement or a mission statement or vision statement for a company, that thing would stay on the wall for 10 years, right? Like it didn't change. Like we leave it on the wall for 10 months and it's redundant today. So what I'm seeing is, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it, you know, evolving? I don't have the answer, by the way, but it just feels like it's the fatigue of the leader to constantly come up with this new, fresh, motivating reason for being. It's hard.
Let's see what
You're working in the same industry, you're working in the same group of clients. How do you keep it fresh? I don't know. Like but I feel like there's an expectation to it for it to be fresh.
Yeah.
Simi, what do you see? What are these larger organizations? I mean, imagine looking after massive pools of people, and you know, there's all these different layers. And how do they do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question. And I think that the key here is really, as a leader, being very aware of what your values are, what you're committed to, and how you want to show up for your team. I think being very clear on what is the purpose, what is the why, And that why can be told in so many different ways, so it resonates with different people. And I think what we do is, you know, we think, oh, I know what my why is, I know what my purpose is, and we write it down and we stick it on the wall. And, you know, we don't remind ourselves, or we don't actually
when the
share
tough
that why in in different ways, that it will resonate with different audiences and different employees. And I think that once you get each and every one of your employees connecting to the why and the purpose that's in it for them and for the business, it's got to be twofold. That's when you get a motivated, engaged workforce.
Agree. And I think, you know, Google Aristotle Project, Simi, I'm sure you know about it, the top tier, what's the impact we're making? But I hear what Arthur's saying, you know, we can do that. And I work with leaders around that space all the time. But I think what Arthur's saying is, oh my God, it's so draining to keep doing it. And I get it. And that's the feeling with some of the leaders. They're like, oh, here we go again. What's the impact for you? What's the impact for you? And I get it. I understand why it's so important, and I bang on about it too, Simi. So I'm totally with you. But I feel for the leaders. And I think that was coming out in your body language, Arthur, when you were saying that, because it's tough to keep driving the message and inspiring people.
Yeah, it is.
Well, if I can just say it, Arthur, you're doing
I need to spend a day with Brahm, maybe, just to energize me again.
Yes.
You're doing a great job.
And I'll go over to you, Brahm, in a minute, but I just want to talk about probably the top bit. How do we keep doing it every day? And look, I did a Tony Robbins course a couple of months ago, and I really love some of the things that he does, okay? And he talks about priming that internal motivation, you know, like how do we inspire ourselves in order to bring our game every single day? So I think that is definitely part of it. How do we keep on coming up and showing up in order to make sure we're showing up for others? And he does that through priming. And Brahm, you would know, Brian Tracy would have done it in other areas as well, but it's priming yourself, Arthur. A bit of Brahm every day.
I hate losing. Anyway, we're almost up for time. It's been a great conversation today. Simi, any closing comments that you'd like to make before we wrap it up?
Yeah, look, I just, you know, going on from Kylie's point around priming, I've just recently put my all my kind of 20 years of psychological science and research and working with my clients into a book. And I'm really excited to share it because it really talks to your point of priming, Kylie. It's basically a formula. It's a formula that I've developed to help busy people, business owners, leaders, and managers be effective in their day and feel energized in just 5 minutes a day.
Love it.
And essentially the formula it's backed by psychological science. It's been tried and tested on 100 of my clients, and they've described it as when they implement the formula, they feel very intentional, they feel energized, they feel productive, and it actually helps them feel primed to be the best version of themselves at work and at home.
Great.
So I'm
do we
really
have to buy the book to get the formula? Are you going to give us the formula?
We all got our pen handy.
Oh, wait, my pen. Hang on, I'm going to change the ink in my pen to make sure I get all of it.
So the book is being published by Wiley. So it's with the Wiley team at the moment. They've been amazing to work with, and it's going to be released internationally in October. And the book will share the formula. The formula is very simple. It's 5 questions. So you'll get to learn the questions in the formula in terms of how to use the formula. And once you know how to use it, it literally takes you 5 minutes at the start of your day.
Brilliant.
So no, we're not.
You walk into your desk and it's sitting on there, and you basically ask yourself the questions, and
I love it.
You're a super person,
Superman.
superwoman.
Superwoman.
Love it. Fantastic.
Well done.
Simi, thank you so much for your time today. Lovely to see you again. Brilliant content, great conversation. Brian McCauley, thank you very much for your time as always. We'll call it a
Pleasure.
wrap, and we'll see you all in a fortnight's time. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you.